Hello and welcome to Fast and Factual on Firstpost, where we get you the top 50 stories from around the world. I'm Alison Lagrange, coming to you live from Durban, South Africa. Let's begin. In our top stories, Israeli forces bombed a building in the Lebanese city of Beirut. Now, the building had been evacuated earlier. Footage shows the exact moment that a missile struck the building. The structure was immediately flattened into a pile of rubble. Israel's military says that the attack targeted Hezbollah facilities, which they claim were inside the building. Israel has confirmed the killing of a Hezbollah senior official named Hashem Safieddine. Now, Safieddine was seen as next potential leader of the Iran-backed group. Israel says he was killed 3 weeks ago during a strike in a southern suburb of Beirut. There has been no confirmation from Hezbollah so far. Hezbollah's former leader, Syed Hassan Nasrallah, was also killed in an Israeli airstrike in September. Meanwhile, Hezbollah says it fired rockets at an IDF intelligence base in the suburbs of Tel Aviv. The Iran-backed group fired a rocket salvo at the Glilot base, housing Israel's military intelligence unit. Hezbollah said, and I quote, "The rocket attack was in response to the massacres committed by the Zionist regime." The German airline Lufthansa has extended the suspension of its services in Lebanon's capital Beirut till February next year. The decision comes amid escalating tensions between Israel and Hezbollah. Lufthansa had earlier suspended its services to Beirut until the 30th of November. The airline says that it will also cancel flight services in Iran's capital Tehran until January. The U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken says, and I quote, "Now is the time to end the war in Gaza." He has also urged Israel to avoid escalating hostilities with Iran. Blinken is on a trip to West Asia to push for a Gaza truce. He met with Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and other Israeli leaders. During the meeting, Blinken tried to push Netanyahu toward a ceasefire. Donald Trump's presidential campaign has filed a complaint against Britain's Labour Party. They have accused the Labour Party of foreign interference in the US election. The complaint cited reports of contact between the campaign team for Trump's rival Kamala Harris and the UK Labour Party. Trump alleges volunteering efforts by the Labour Party to aid Harris. The fast food giant McDonald's has been linked to a severe E. Coli outbreak in the US. One person has died and dozens have fallen sick due to the outbreak in at least 10 states. The US Centers for Disease Control said that all the people affected said they ate at McDonald's. E. coli outbreaks usually originate from raw meat and can lead to food poisoning and diarrhea. Taiwan has detected Chinese warships sailing through the Taiwan Strait. The vessels were spotted in waters near the Taipei-administered Pratas Islands. Now, Taiwan's military said it responded according to the situation. This comes a day after Beijing held war games near the island. China has increased its military activity around Taiwan. This is after Taiwan's president, Lai Ching-te, vowed to defend its sovereignty. North Korea's leader Kim Jong-un visited strategic missile bases in the country. Now, he inspected the facilities and examined their quote-unquote readiness for action for strategic deterrence. Kim also said that U.S. nuclear capabilities were an ever-increasing threat to North Korea's security. The North Korean leader called for the modernization and fortification of his country's strategic missile bases. And India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi is holding bilateral talks with Chinese President Xi Jinping. The leaders are meeting on the sidelines of the BRICS summit that's being held in the Russian city of Kazan. Their meeting comes just days after India and China reached an agreement on patrolling arrangements along the line of actual control in eastern Ladakh. India and Pakistan will renew their pact on the Kartarpur Sahib corridor for another 5 years. The pact was due to lapse on the 24th of October. This comes days after India's External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar visited Pakistan for a summit. The agreement between India and Pakistan was first signed on the 24th of October 2019. The pact facilitates trips by Indian pilgrims to the Kartarpur Sahib Gurudwara in Pakistan. This is the site where Guru Nanak, the founder of the Sikh faith, died in 1539. And tensions in Bangladesh have soared again. Protesters have demanded the resignation of President Mohammad Safieddine. This after he said he didn't have any documentary evidence of Sheikh Hasina resigning as Prime Minister before she fled the country on the 5th of August. The anti-discrimination student movement held a rally in Bangladesh's capital Dhaka yesterday after the president's statement. Angry protesters also stormed the presidential palace, called the Banga Bhavan. They have also called for the abolition of Bangladesh's 1972 constitution and the framing of a new one that reflects the changes in 2024. A fuel truck went out of control and exploded near Uganda's capital Kampala yesterday. At least 11 people were killed after the tanker overturned. The truck was traveling from Kampala to Gulu in Uganda's northern region. Lifestyle brand Abercrombie & Fitch's former CEO Mike Jeffries has been accused of running a prostitution and sex trafficking business. Jeffries, his partner Matthew Smith, and another company official have been arrested. Prosecutors say that the men used force and coercion to engage in violent and exploitative sexual acts. If they are convicted on the sex trafficking charge, they will face a minimum of 15 years in jail. And on to climate news. Heavy rains have lashed the Indian city of Bengaluru. Amid the incessant rainfall and under construction building collapsed in the city. The building collapsed and killed at least 5 people. Local officials fear that more people could be trapped under the debris. Meanwhile, toxic white foam was seen floating on the Yamuna River in Delhi. Experts say that industrial sewage and municipal waste have caused the frothing phenomenon. This comes amid rising pollution levels in the Indian capital. Delhi's air quality index is at 328 today, which puts it in the hazardous category. And authorities in Panama are planning to construct a reservoir at the Indo River Basin. The project will reportedly help the country deal with the extreme weather events. Panama recently dealt with an almost year-long drought that ended earlier this year. The dam construction has left citizens divided. Panama's president says that the final decision about the dam will be announced next year. Indigenous and Afro-Latin American activists staged protests in Colombia yesterday. The protests were held outside the COP16 venue. The protesters performed traditional dances. They are demanding concrete environmental policies. A recent study suggests that climate change has worsened floods in Africa. The intense rain has displaced millions of people in countries like Cameroon, Chad, Niger, Nigeria, and Sudan. According to an analysis by scientists at the World Weather Attribution, global warming led to incessant rainfall and exacerbated floods. Scientists also warned that continuing to burn fossil fuels will make the conditions worse. A new government report has shown how the Chinese economy has been battered by natural calamities this year. It said that China suffered over $32 billion in losses between July and September. China's financial hub, Shanghai, was hit by Typhoon Bebinka in September. Typhoon Yagi tore through the Hainan Island earlier last month, and the reported losses are more than double what China saw in the first 6 months of 2024. And on to business and tech news. The International Monetary Fund has called the U.S. economy an engine of global growth. In its latest economic forecast, the IMF raised the GDP forecast for the U.S. to 2.8%. It is the only developed economy that the report sees growing in both 2024 and 2025. Meanwhile, the global economy is expected to expand at a pace of 3.2%. The IMF slightly upgraded the growth outlook for the European Union as well. Meanwhile, the IMF expects lower economic output in China. The global lender says that the country's economy will grow by 4.8% this year instead of the 5% predicted earlier. The growth rate is expected to decline further to 4.5% in 2025. This comes despite Chinese authorities announcing several measures to boost the economy. The IMF's chief economist says that Beijing's stimulus measures are not sufficient. On the other hand, the IMF has kept India's growth outlook unchanged. India's economy is expected to expand at a rate of 7% in the financial year of 2024 to 25. The IMF says that India has reconnected with its potential. The Japanese government-owned Tokyo Metro listed its shares on the stock market today. The firm's shares jumped by over 45% after the market debut. Tokyo Metro raised $2.3 billion during its initial public offering in Japan. It was the country's largest IPO in recent years. The American coffee chain Starbucks saw its revenue fall by about 3% in the last quarter. The firm earned about $9 billion in revenue between July and September of this year. The coffee chain has seen its sales stagnate in key markets like the US and China. After the disappointing financial results, Starbucks cancelled its annual growth outlook. The company's new CEO, Brian Nichols, said that they need fundamental changes in their strategy. America's Frontier Airlines has reportedly started talks with rival Spirit Airlines for a possible takeover. This comes after the merger plans of Spirit Airlines with JetBlue Airways failed in March of this year. The U.S. Department of Justice blocked the deal, citing competition concerns. Spirit has been a loss-making carrier for the last 5 quarters. American chipmaker Qualcomm has partnered with Google. The duo plan to offer chips and software to car makers. This will help the automobile companies to develop artificial intelligence voice assistants. Currently, Qualcomm and Google offer chips and operating software for cars separately. Meanwhile, British chipmaker ARM Holdings is reportedly set to cancel a deal with Qualcomm. The licensing deal allowed the American chipmaker to use ARM Holdings technology to design chips. This comes amid an ongoing legal dispute between the two companies. The dispute stems from Qualcomm's 2021 acquisition of NVIDIA, a chip design firm. Now, NVIDIA has licenses to use ARM's technologies to design server chips. However, Qualcomm didn't negotiate a new deal with ARM after the takeover. And Taiwanese chipmaker TSMC has reportedly notified U.S. authorities about a possible violation by China's Huawei. TSMC says one of its advanced chips was found in a Huawei product. The firm said that one of its customers might have exported these chips to Huawei. U.S. companies are barred from selling high-end chips to the Chinese smartphone maker. And Apple CEO Tim Cook has met with China's Information Technology Minister Jin Zhongong. Now, the meeting happened during Cook's visit to Beijing this week. The government said in a statement that Cook has promised to deepen Apple's presence in China. Apple's CEO also shared pictures of his visit to a Chinese farm on social media. And moving on to sports news, and we start with cricket. India will host New Zealand for a 3-match women's one-day international series. Harmanpreet Kaur will be captaining the Indian side. Meanwhile, New Zealand will be led by Safieddine. The first ODI match will be played in India's Ahmedabad tomorrow. And veteran Australian batter David Warner has offered to come out of his Test retirement. Warner offered the proposal to return to international cricket for the Border Gavaskar Test series. Warner said that he is always available for playing as Australia's opening batter. Warner had retired from all forms of cricket in October 2023. And Pakistan's test team coach Jason Gillespie was seen picking up empty bottles in Rawalpindi Cricket Stadium. The litter was left by Pakistani players after a training session. The video of the Pakistani coach cleaning up the grounds has gone viral on social media. Gillespie's cleanliness effort was widely praised on social media. And moving on to football, Aston Villa beat Bologna 2-0 in a Champions League match. For Aston Villa, John McGinn scored the opening goal in the 55th minute. Now, John Duran then extended Aston's lead by scoring another goal in the 64th minute. And this is Aston Villa's third consecutive win in the Champions League. Meanwhile, Arsenal beat Shakhtar Donetsk 1-0 in the Champions League. Now, the only goal of the match was an own goal from Shakhtar's goalkeeper. The match remained goalless after the 29-minute mark. Arsenal, with 7 points, are fourth on the table. And Real Madrid beat Borussia Dortmund 5-2 in a Champions League match. Now, for Dortmund, Daniel Milan scored a goal in the 30th minute, while Jamie Bino-Gitans then extended Dortmund's lead in the 34th minute. Real Madrid made a comeback in the second half. The centre-back Antonio Rudiger opened the tally for Real in the 60th minute. Vinicius Jr. scored the equaliser in the 62nd to push the scoreline to 2-2. Starting in the 83rd minute, Real scored 3 more goals in less than 10 minutes to clinch the match. And West Ham winger Mohamed Kudus could face with an extended ban. The English football's governing body charged Kudus for violent conduct. Kudus was seen hitting out at Tottenham players during West Ham's Premier League match last weekend. Kudus already faces a 3-match ban following the incident. He has until tomorrow to respond to the charges against him. In field hockey, India are playing the first match of their 2-match bilateral series against Germany. The match is taking place at New Delhi's Major Dhyan Chand Stadium. And with this, the international hockey has returned to the Indian capital after 10 years. In their last meeting at the Paris Olympics, Germany had defeated India in the semi-finals. In Delhi today, Indian captain Harmanpreet Singh's men are looking to attend to this unfinished business from Paris Olympics. And in tennis, former world number 3 Dominic Thiem had announced retirement from the sport. In his last match, the Austrian lost to Italy's Luciano Dardio 7-6, 6-2 at the Vienna Open on the 22nd of October. Now, the 31-year-old received standing ovation from the crowd at Vienna's Statoil Arena. And Indian badminton coach Pullela Gopichand has slammed the decision to drop some key sports from the Commonwealth Games. Gopichand said that the decision lacks clear reasoning, and the former All England champion described the decision as short-sighted. Sports such as hockey, badminton and wrestling, among others, have been dropped from the 2026 Commonwealth Games. The host city, Glasgow, instead unveiled a list of 10 budget-friendly sports for the Commonwealth Games. And in entertainment news, rapper Eminem endorsed Kamala Harris at her Detroit rally for the U.S. presidential post. Now, he said during a speech that Harris will protect the freedom of the people. The rapper was joined by former U.S. President Barack Obama, who came to support Harris. He also rapped Eminem's song Lose Yourself and surprised everyone in the crowd. American singer Bruce Springsteen will headline Kamala Harris's rallies in the swing states. Now, these are the regions in which both the Democratic and Republican candidates have a high chance of winning. Springsteen will be performing at 2 venues, Atlanta and Philadelphia. This comes a month after the singer endorsed Kamala Harris and her running mate Tim Walz for the White House. The U.S. is set to vote in the presidential election on the 5th of November this year. American singer and songwriter Christina Aguilera says that she damaged her knees by wearing high heels during her performances. The 5-time Grammy Award-winning artist says that the heels affected the cartilage in her knee and that the constant strain has left a long-lasting damage. She also admitted that she never had the courage to perform barefoot and feel the stage beneath. And singer and actor Selena Gomez says that she has no music planned for the future release. She said in an interview that music is an essential part of her. Gomez is currently earning accolades for her performance in the film Emilia Perez. She revealed that she sang in the film without auto-tune. And for the second season of the award-winning show Beef, Netflix has roped in a group of new actors. The list includes names like Oscar Isaac, Carey Mulligan and Charles Melton. The second season will have 8 episodes of 30 minutes. The first season of the series was released in 2023. And the makers of the Harry Potter TV series revealed that the show will have more details than the films. Channing Dungey, the CEO of Warner Brothers, said in an interview that he is a big fan of the book and this show feels like an unbelievable dream. The casting for the show is currently on in the UK and Ireland. The story of Harry Potter is based on the books written by J.K. Rowling. Twilight star Robert Pattinson will soon be in a true crime film titled Primetime. The film is based on a journalist who breaks a story of the underworld and in the process ends up changing television news forever. It will be directed by Lance Oppenheim, who previously helmed the documentary series Ren Fair. Additional details about the film are being kept under wraps. And Marvel Studios' Blade might not see the light of day. Disney has removed the film from its release list. The film featured Mahershala Ali in the role of half a vampire. The movie has been hit by a series of delays after its director also exited the project. It was scheduled to release on the 7th of November next year. Smash will open on Broadway in March of 2025. It is a musical adaptation of the series with the same name. The TV show follows the story of a group who make a musical on the life of Marilyn Monroe. The makers of the musical say that the stage adaptation is very different from the TV show. Actor Michael Newman has passed away at the age of 68. According to reports, he died of a heart complication. He was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease nearly 2 decades ago. Newman is survived by his wife, 2 children, and granddaughter. And with that, it's a wrap on this edition of Fast and Factual. Thank you for being with us. Stay tuned to Firstpost.
Hello and welcome to Fast